Here are the hinges installed into the vertical stabilizer fin, what little bit of it there is. I've got some CA glue on there, so I'm now going to carefully try to insert them into the slots that are already cut in the rudder. Try from this side. Now these hinges come in the kit, but they weren't completely free at first. There was a tiny bit of binding in them. So I tried to remedy that by trimming them just a little bit. And that will do it for the vertical section. Now I'm going to glue that directly onto the fuselage. There we go. Get that lined up nicely. And just kind of hold it in place. Make sure everything is staying where I want it to go, because this is a one-time job. If I get it wrong, it's going to be really bad. Of course, when you're using CA glue, if you want to have a little bit of extra time before the point of no return, the thicker stuff that you use, the thicker the stuff that you use, the more gap filling it will be, and also the slower it will be to set up. Alright, it is time to attach the wing, and for this I had to do a little bit of prep off camera because I had to do it on the floor. First of all, you need to remove the covering that I mentioned that's over all of this styrofoam, very thin, almost paper-like stuff. You need to remove the covering along this center section that's going to be glued to the fuselage, because you want to be foam on foam. You don't want to try to glue to the covering, because that's not going to give you a good bond. The covering will pull up from the styrofoam. So to do that, I first had to get the wing fully lined up. To get it lined up and make sure that I had it at the right angle, I had to put it down on the floor, and then they give you a couple of hints on how to do that easily, measuring from tip to fuselage on both sides, making sure that that's correct or equal, and then also checking from each wing tip to a fixed point towards the rear of the craft. And in my case, I went to the center, the pivot point for the elevators on both sides, to get it both correct from side to side and also correct in its angle. Then I just went down and marked the edges using the fuselage itself as a guide, marked those off, and then pulled off the covering in there. So now I don't have to worry about lining it up again. I already have my lines embedded into the foam just very lightly. You might not be able to see that on camera, but trust me, they're there. And now I'm just going to go ahead, and I've slid the wing in most of the way, and I'm just going to go ahead and apply some of my foam safe CA along that whole section, top and bottom. A little bit across the back, a little bit across the leading edge. Again, I'm using medium CA here, so it's not going to set up immediately. And now here comes the big moment. Push it in, get it lined up. Good from the back, good from the front. That is perfect. I don't have to worry about remeasuring now, because like I said, my lines are already there. And now I'm just going to pinch it a little bit from the top and the bottom, and just hold that in there until it sets. Ta-da! There's no way to get all of this on, all of this in frame at the same time on the camera with where I've got it set up right now, but the general takeaway is that I've got what looks like a plane now. Well, it looks like a glider at least. The wings are attached, the horizontal and vertical control surfaces are attached, the little vertical stabilizer fin is there. These guys are hinged. Next step is going to be to attach the ailerons, and those actually use tape for hinges. The covering, the designs on the covering are not going to be 100% perfectly symmetrical from side to side. It's important when doing this that you don't just follow the covering, because that's done by a machine that's doing this very fast, I believe, and it's not trying to be accurate. It's not giving you exact dimensions or locations. So when you do make your measurements, don't just try to eyeball it based on the covering, based on the pattern. You can see that this side in here is much closer down there at the joint where this blue stops compared to over here. There's a gap. That's not my mistake. That's just a mistake in how the covering is done. Yeah, next up, ailerons, and then I start to attach some servos. So for now, I'm going to take a break, and I'll pick it up in the next video.